Hey, how's everybody doing? It's Friday night and things might look a little bit different here at the moment because I'm setting up for tomorrow night's live streamed Tasmania election coverage, which I'm very excited about. So I figured why not test this ridiculous system I've got going than to run a simultaneous stream to Facebook, YouTube, Twitter and Instagram all at the same time. I'm just going to turn that down. That's annoying me. So if you're on any of those platforms, make sure you chime in, throw me some comments in the live chat of YouTube or Facebook. And if you're on Instagram, I'm going to be able to catch your questions over here on this other machine so I can respond to those as we go. And it is going to be a 3 things, but again, I'm going to cheat a little bit. My dog's barking in the background. I'm not sure if you can hear that. That's Reggie. He's a border collie. He's a total champion. He's a good boy too. We're going to do 3 things. The first thing I'm going to do is take you through, I'm going to indulge my nerdier side. I'm not sure if you're already figured out that I've got a nerdy side, but I'm going to take you through this ridiculous overkill setup that I've got here. And then we're going to talk briefly about what's coming up tomorrow and what to expect from the Tasmanian election. And then lastly, I'm going to show you some footage of Queensland politicians being electrocuted. So that's something to really look out for. I just realized I forgot to boot up my little thing here, so let's just see how we go with that. And we're going to go like that, and we're going to go like that. No, we're not. We're going to go like that. And then I'm going to bring up this is all the fun of live streaming, you know, you get to see how the sausage is made. We want to go NDI any second now. Oh, not quite. Sorry, folks. There we go. Okay. So if you've got anything, we've got Rob Gazowski says, whoop, coming through loud and clear. Not the dog, though. Oh, you know why? Because I'm using a really tricky VST plugin called Clarity VX Pro to cut out the room noise, and it's probably cutting out the dog barking as well. So, you know, winning there. That's pretty cool. Give me 1 second. I'm just going to make sure I've turned on all of my social settings. Let's get that one going on. Let's double check this one. There we go. We can turn that one on now as well. All right, so if you do want to throw a comment on Facebook or YouTube, I can actually put your name in lights in a really beautiful little overlay that comes across the bottom. That's going to be a big part of tomorrow night's stream. We want to make it as interactive as possible and get the audience involved. We've got some really smart people, but I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm going to talk about that next. That's the second thing. So why don't we, let me know as well if you can hear a little bit of gentle downbeat hip hop chill beats kind of coming through in the background, because that should be there as well. I'm hoping that's not getting cut out by all my tricky plugins. But without further ado, why don't I give you a quick run around this ridiculous setup in my home studio here. So to do that, I'm going to cross to the phone here, and here's what we're looking at. So you've got this is the machine that drives it all. This is the bad boy that handles all the streams. This is a program called bevvie, which is actually developed and originated right here in Queensland. Very proud Queensland product made by some total legends on the Gold Coast. It absolutely took the world by storm during COVID. That's what's driving the whole show. And then let's take you around the other spot. So we've got a nerdy little camera here that I'll show you the angle from in a second. That's moving side to side. Very sexy little piece of cinematic work there. We've got our record TV there. We've got the teleprompter here, which I'm using just to make sure that everything, I can see the program right ahead of me. Here's my giant nerdy multi-view. You can see those primary color squares there represent the remote feeds, the live feeds that are going to be coming in from Tasmania tomorrow night. So they're just there as placeholders, ready for me to sort that out. And then here is the dedicated computer that is just for the Instagram feed. Yeah, that's right, folks. That's what it requires to go to Instagram Live. You need just your one computer just for Instagram, because it's a very precious, very influencery type of app. Insta is lagging. Ooh, that's no good. I wonder why that is. Okay, well, the Insta is a new thing that I haven't actually been able to achieve before. Oh, now you've got double echo chamber sound. Ooh, okay. All right, well, keep bringing the feedback in, because this is all testing, and it's very helpful, the information I'm getting through from you. It's lagging. I wonder what's causing that. Okay, all right, well, we'll get to the bottom of that. And the other thing I just wanted to point out as well is that you know what? I think it's Instagram's fault, because everything's pretty smooth here. I did want to point out that one thing I'm really proud of is my cable management. So yeah, peep that action, peep a little bit of that action. I just really like to make it neat, tidy, just so that no one trips. And just to have pride in the work that I do. So cable management's a really important thing for me. Why don't I cut over to that camera, how you doing? So like I said, it's a nice, slow, cinematic, side-to-side kind of effort, which is absolutely unnecessary. Like, there's no reason to have a second camera angle on a live stream like this. Certainly, there's no reason to have it moving from side to side, but I like it. I'm a nerd, a little bit of a wanker, and so I did it. That's just how I roll. So, still a little bit of lag coming through on Instagram. I can see that. Guys, I'm sorry about that. I'd really like to get to the bottom of why that's happening. Comment there from Adam Anderson. Haha, you're not a roadie. Where is your gaffer? Oh, I feel your pain, bro. Like, I should never be trusted with running cables. Usually people have to come through and clean up my shit behind me because I'm just too impatient, and it's sort of that undiagnosed ADHD kind of thing. And you're also getting a bit of echoey sound. All right. Let me know if that echoey sound continues, because I'd really like to get to the bottom of what's going on there. But certainly you're always going to get a slightly worse experience on Instagram than the other platforms, mostly because it's vertical. You know, the sound echo is gone. Okay, good to know. So if you do want to have a better experience, certainly head over to YouTube or Facebook and jump in on the chat. Chris is already there. He's on YouTube. Let's get this comment up. Chris says, cool, man. Love the tech view. Always wondered what it looked like on the other side. His comment should not look like that, though. Wait a second. I'll tell you why. It's supposed to look like that. So, what a great test run this is. We're all learning together. Let's try it again. That's what it should look like. There's Chris. Cool, man. Love the tech view. Always wonder what it looked like on the other side. Maybe I just need a sip of beer to calm down because I'm a bit twitchy from setting all this up. Cheers, everybody. All right. Thanks for that, Chris. So that's the setup that we're going with for tomorrow's stream. Like I said, there's going to be people coming in remotely. I'm just going to jump to the other camera here and talk to you about tomorrow's election. So as far as what we're going to do here at the Undercurrent, I'll be here in the Brisbane studio in Quandamooka country, live streaming out and controlling the whole show. And we've lined up some amazing people in Tasmania, not just in Hobart, but in several of the other electorates down there who are going to come in over remote connections and chat to us about how things are going. One really cool feature of the Tasmanian election that you may or may not know, it's actually the last place in Australia that has an active tally room, a legit tally room where any member of the public can turn up to this place. I think it's at the Hotel Grand Chancellor, and you can turn up and be a part of the count. You can see it all happening. And so we've got a few key people who are going to be there. You may have seen this poster that I put out just a couple of days ago. So you can see there, we're going to have Meg Webb, who is a total legend you might have seen on the past episode to do with Tasmania, the one where I was down in Launceston filming. So Meg's going to co-host it with me. She'll be coming in and out of the broadcast because she's got some pretty important duties. She's actually got to go and do some other media appearances, but she's going to be there for the bulk of it. And Michael Roberts, who you can also see there. Michael's the head of Voices for Tasmania, which is kind of like a loose community grassroots group that supports independent candidates, and they've played a big role in trying to help some of the independents out. And you might be wondering, why would a nerd from Brisbane bother to do a live stream about an election that's happening on literally the other side of the country? Well, as I sort of intimated in that Tasmania episode, this is like a chance for Tasmania to show the rest of the country how it's done. For the first time, there's going to be 10 additional seats added, which means that, okay, let me back up a little bit because I won't bore you too much with this, but you've got to know a little bit about how the Hare-Clark voting system works. So rather than the elections you're used to where there would be, say, they'd create a seat and then a series of candidates could run for that seat, but there's only one winner. In Tasmania, they've got 5 electorates, and in each of those electorates, previously, how many was it? I'm just trying to do my math real quick. It was 5 representatives could be elected for that seat, and they use a quota system. So they work out what the percentage is by dividing the number of candidates. So I think 5 candidates works out to 17.5%. I'm probably doing a crap job of explaining this because I should have my notes with me. But what it means is in those seats now, there's 7 candidates that can get up. So there's 2 extra seats in each of these 5 electorates that have never been contested before. And it means the quota is smaller. So the independents that are going to run only need to get 12% to be able to be elected. And I won't explain the maths because I don't entirely understand it, so I shouldn't even try. But it's a little bit like preferential voting in where the first person that gets to a quota, whatever votes are left over from them are like a surplus that then gets distributed across the other candidates, and they slowly get topped up to the point where they get a quota. So it might be that because the independents are coming into this fresh and haven't run before, we may not see winners from the independents until a few days after, even up to 10 days or 2 weeks after the election. But it's still going to be bloody exciting to watch, because all of the polls are showing that the major parties won't be able to form majority government. That Labor's probably got zero chance. The Liberals have a tiny whisker of a chance of forming majority government, but most likely they're going to be dealing with the Greens, the Independents to get in, and the Jackie Lambie network, who are also tipped to be something of a kingmaker in this whole thing. So it's an absolutely fascinating situation. So I think we've got about 4 or 5 candidates lined up who are going to weigh in and tell us how things are going. We're going to have feeds direct from the tally room. We've also got an amateur psephologist. So if you're not familiar with the word psephologist, that's a person who's an expert in elections. So Anthony Green would be a psephologist. So we've got an amateur Tasmanian psephologist who's developed his own algorithm for predicting elections that he thinks is more accurate than Anthony Green. So that's something that's worth tuning in for right there. This, I think, is going to be a lot of fun. There'll be beer involved. There'll be very casual open chats, and we're hoping to have the chat lines open the whole time. People are... Oh, right. It was showing the setup. Oh, the audio was coming off my phone. The nerds on Instagram just figured it out for me. I'd left the audio on my phone open, so you were getting double sound. We are working this out together, and it's exciting. So yeah, head over to YouTube if you want to get a better experience, and by all means, like Chris did, jump in on the chat. Tell me how you're feeling. So yeah, tomorrow night, super excited. Just to show you those details again really quickly. Tomorrow it's going to be at 6:30 p.m. Brisbane time, 7:30 p.m. for the southern states. I think it works out to 7 p.m. Adelaide time, and I wish I could remember Perth time. I should, because we shouldn't get into a habit of leaving those people out of it. Perth's really important too, even though they get a sweet ass deal on GST. Don't go down a tangent, Graetzy. Just chill. So what was the last thing I was going to do? I kind of teased the fact that we would be showing footage of politicians being electrocuted, which I know sounds a little bit strange, but it actually happened. I was there with my camera. So was my buddy Matt, who's a big undercurrent participant. He's going to be a huge part of what we do going forward. We were there with cameras running around filming this, and so if you want a little bit more context, because I'm not doing a great job of giving you that right now, you might remember from a past 3 Things episode, I introduced you to my friend Jess Taylor, who's a local Redlands mum. She's a business owner. She's a mentor to a lot of other business creators. Really talented person who I don't know how she fits everything she does into her life. And she was the one who I mentioned managed to convince the state government to put $18 million towards dealing with endometriosis, which is a condition that is more prevalent than, I'm going to remember this one, asthma and diabetes, but is almost never talked about compared to those other conditions, which are very serious conditions. But this one is more prevalent. And for some reason I'm not quite aware of, it's more prevalent in Queensland than any of the other states. It's a $9 billion hit to the economy from dealing with this illness. There's no cure. There's a lot of great researchers, but they're not particularly well funded. So yeah, Jess went and got $18 million off the government, but she wasn't satisfied with that. So she decided she would set up an event at Parliament House yesterday where she would attach a period pain simulator to male politicians so that they could experience what it's like to have period pain. And look, there's no point me describing it. I may as well show you some of the footage. So there'll be some sound that pops through here, but mostly it's just mute. So let me chuck that one up there. Here we are in one of the rooms in Parliament House. There's the opposition leader, David Crisafulli. John T. Bush and Amanda Cram were the 2 bipartisan leads.
Whatever money you need, we're gonna fix it. That's right.
Do you think you can stand up in Parliament and do question time?
So that was the Treasurer, Cameron Dick, who, after experiencing the pain, immediately offered to fund whatever they needed. So you can see how effective it is.
We need to work out what's going on in Queensland, and we actually need services to help these people. The economic cost of endometriosis is $9 billion a year.
That's Tim Mander, who's a member of the LNP. He used to be a well-known football referee, I believe. And I've got to say, the girls who were watching this and filming it on their phones were taking an unusual amount of pleasure in seeing the men experience this and developing, hopefully, some level of empathy. And from what I could tell, it was a big success. Certainly a really unique way of raising awareness about a condition that just doesn't get talked about enough. And, you know, it's happening here in Queensland. So super proud of Jess and the team. That was a really cool thing. So let's jump into a couple of comments. Anyo, who's a superhero from the Community Independence Project, says, hand pink waving. Oh, I'm guessing that's like an emoji stand-in thing, Anyo. I like where you're going there. Looking forward to Election Day tomorrow. So am I. Hope to see you on the live stream. And she also followed up with another comment. Is the period pain simulator available for hire? So Jess, I'm not sure if Jess is watching, but I bet she'd be able to chime in on that because she's always willing to raise awareness wherever awareness needs to be raised. So I'm sure if they could somehow turn this into a business model where the period pain simulator just tours the country. I think most of the male politicians who were at the event were suggesting, hey, we need to get this in schools for all the young men to try, and we need to get this in other parliaments. And I don't know whether they were just so taken aback by the actual levels of pain that they were, obviously quite shocked. And some of them, even the Premier was there. We haven't quite got approval to show you that footage, but Stephen Miles underwent the period pain simulator as well. So it was a very, very interesting experience, and really hoping that it comes to some level of fruition, that they're not just saying what they think they need to say, and they actually follow through with some tangible on-the-ground funding and support for this. Chris says, nice one, Jess. I agree. I think Jess is a champion. And Anyo, back in again. Love the comments, Anyo. Did you try it, Dan? I ran out of time. There was a lineup of dudes trying to get on this thing, which is a little bit sadistic, but that, you know, maybe that's the kind of people that politicians are. I'm not really sure. Others might be able to weigh in on how they feel about that. Matty tried it because he's got a death wish. But no, I'd somehow managed to avoid trying it out. But I have deep empathy for my sisters in period land. No, that was a terrible way of saying it. Deep empathy for all of the people who are female who deal with it. I'm just going to stop. Like, I haven't worked out a good way of expressing that, but I feel your pain. That's what I'm trying to say. Cheers. All right, what do we got? My Tiny Tribe says, hey, your t-shirt is really cool. Oh, let me get rid of the comment so you can see it. Look at that. Do you recognize that brand? So Undercurrent merch is on its way. If you're interested in supporting the Undercurrent, there's a few ways you can do it. We've got a Patreon, which is actually available on the website. If you go to the Connect page, you can find ways to support us there. And we'll have merch up for sale pretty soon, which is another great way of helping to create a little bit more viability for the Undercurrent going into the future, because this is the year where we're really going to give it a serious red hot crack. And would you believe it, the great and powerful Denise Shrivel has joined the chat, who says, good format, liking this. If you don't know Denise, you really should. She's an absolute champion and does a great deal to support independents and people who are trying to shake up the political system. She's got a great news outlet called True North, True North News, which is kind of like an aggregator of independent news sources. Each day, she puts out a series of posts from the different independent news sources that she trusts. And it's a really good way of getting a quick overview of what's happened from a different perspective than the commercial media. So I highly recommend that. She's also got what else has Denise got going on? She's got a Spin Proof podcast, and she's got Democracy Walks, which is a merchandise / walking team thing. Maybe Denise can jump in on the chat and do a way better job of explaining that than I did. And Anyo's still in on it. She loves the merch. She knows what we're talking about. How are we doing? Anybody else on Instagram want to drop in? Because I think I'm just about done. And obviously this has been a completely unscripted ramble from me, and hadn't really planned to do this. So as you can tell, it's a little bit off the cuff, but certainly if there's anybody else who wants to ask a question, we could do that. Otherwise I might call it and save up all of the good stuff for the big night tomorrow night. And thankfully tomorrow night, it's not just me. So you'll have a lot of other people that will be able to bounce off and get some people who are more intelligent than I am, which I'm always a big fan of. Anytime I can be around people who are more intelligent than me, it's it happens more often than you'd think. Denise says, thank you, you're giving my CV. Look, game recognizes game, okay? That's just how it goes. Denise is a champion. She deserves a shout out. I think that's it. I think we'll be able to... Rob Gazowski says, second that. Insta-lag gone. Oh, cool. Okay. Well, I don't know what was causing that. So look, for people on Instagram, lag's not cool, and you shouldn't have had to deal with that. So I'm sorry you did, but I can't tell what part of the system that came from. Oh, and look who else has joined the chat. It's the one and only Michael Roberts, who's going to join us tomorrow night on the Tasmania election special. Like I said before, Michael's the head of Voices for Tasmania. You might have seen a quick shot of him in that Launceston episode that we had a couple of weeks ago. So Michael is a really intelligent guy. So I'm very much looking forward to having him weighing in throughout the night. And he's done an amazing job of lining up people on the ground in Tasmania who are going to be a part of the broadcast. So thanks, Michael. Denise is pumped for it. She's looking forward to tomorrow night. Michael's getting ready for a big night tomorrow. And Denise says, all the best for tomorrow, Michael, and well done on your great work. Isn't this great? This low latency YouTube streaming where we can have this bi-directional experience. Chris says, tell us more about the Tassie independents. Well, there are, from what I understand, there are quality independents running in almost all of the seats. They're not all aligned to these community movements that we've sort of been focusing on. Voices of Tasmania have lent their support to as many as they can, but the snap election was such short notice. It's not possible to always get everyone to coalesce, and you don't really want to anyway, because the whole point of an independent is that they're not in a party. They vote on their own conscience, but it's always good when you can have some level of support. Meg Webb had some great things to say about that in the piece that we put out from Launceston, where she was saying, you know, it's so hard without a party structure to compete with candidates who have a party structure. So we do need some kind of support mechanism through the community, and we need to know that electing independents isn't always a one election job. Sometimes we need to support them at the first election and then the second election, and then they might get up at the third election. And that's the kind of longevity of support that we need to have to make this a success. So some of the independents that we chatted to in Launceston are going to be joining us back again tomorrow night, as well as a few that I haven't spoken to yet. So I'm really looking forward to chatting to some of them. And yeah, there are some hot button issues. I mean, you've got what is it? I'm going to forget the number here. I think it's $450 million stadium. Maybe Michael could correct me if I'm wrong on that, but there's a gigantic sum of money being dropped on a stadium just so that they can have an AFL team while they're in a cost of living crisis, and there's an absolute dearth of homes available for people who need shelter. So the decision to spend that kind of money isn't being received very well by the community, and the fact that the Liberals are trying to hold their ground and won't give up on it probably isn't going to do them any favours at the ballot box. So let's see, Michael's got here, a spectrum of independence is how he refers to it. I like that. A veritable cornucopia of independently minded politics buffs is another way. No, you don't. No, I don't need to put it that way. So, and the other issues, there's the Ashley Detention Centre, which is all to do with the child sex abuse scandal that was blown up by Nick Fike in the Monthly a little while back. The revelations about that just keep on unraveling as the days go by. There's seems to be proof that a member high up in Jeremy Rockcliffe's government was aware of the particular police officer who was found to be abusing kids and was able to keep his job through all of that. So there's some insane revelations coming out through all of that. Oh, thanks, Michael. He's jumped in here. $375 million will get you a stadium in Hobart. So yeah, good luck with that. What are some of the other issues? I'm trying to remember. There's some other major things. Well, they've decided the Liberals' way of attracting votes is to announce that they're going to build the world's biggest chocolate fountain, which that's a vote winner right there. Like, that's responsible government, is building a chocolate fountain to address cost of living, to address youth crime, to address all the things that Tasmanians are facing. So yeah, well done to the Rockcliffe government for that. Another interesting thing I'll be looking out for is in the last election, there was a bit of a nefarious influence from the federal group who, from what I understand, hold a monopoly over gambling and casino operations in Tasmania. I think they're the only game in town, is my understanding. And the Labor Party actually were going to come in with some limits on pokies and trying to curtail the influence of gambling in Tasmania. And the federal group just threw buckets of cash at the Liberals campaign and soundly defeated Labor. So it was just proof of how well-heeled individuals can have an untold influence on democracy. And that's something we're going to try to talk about a lot more at the Undercurrent. Chris says, is the environment still a big issue in Tassie? Michael, you might be able to jump in on that one. It certainly has been in the past. The issue of native forest logging certainly is still very much a going concern. The big nemesis in that was a company called Guns Limited, who went belly up a few years ago, I believe. But there's still plenty of others. Tasmania actually has its own government-owned forestry division, which makes a loss every year, I'm pretty sure. Michael's back in again with the knowledge. Climate change in the environment still top 5 in all 5 electorates, but there is a big anti-green sentiment in the north. And that's a recurring theme that we're going to sort of keep jumping back into, which is, I mean, if I'm blatantly honest, I agree with the majority of the policies in the Greens platform, but it's just the fact that their brand is tarnished in so many parts of Australia. There's just huge swathes of the country that will never countenance voting for the Greens. So that's where some kind of a coalition between independents and the Greens could be the future way to stand up to the two major parties. So yeah, it's going to be really interesting. I think there's 2 Green seats currently held in Tasmania, and most of the polls have been saying they should at least hold on to that. They might potentially pick up 1 or 2, but most of the focus at the moment is on the Jackie Lambie network and the independents. That's where most of this is going to get shaken up. Anyo says, all the independents have signed Dr. Sophie Scomp's End Native Forest Logging Pledge, so vote them in. Yet another great reason to vote for independents. I mean, I could tell you so many, but that's a great one. Thanks, Anyo. Oh, and you're backed up there by Michael. We just got knowledge coming left, right, and centre here from our wonderful viewers, so thank you for that. Let's have a quick check-in on the Instagram comments. Adam Andreessen says, more independents get rid of the duopoly government that only focuses on staying in power. Well said. Absolutely agree with that. I think what else have we got here? He also says, how about increasing resources rent tax rather than the 4-wheel drive tax? Ooh, spicy. That's a spicy one there from Adam. Are you referring to the vehicle fuel emission standards there, Adam? Interesting. Okay. We could have a little knockabout conversation on that one. Jesse Malin's jumped in with a question here. What are your thoughts on the Tasmanian Honest Government ad this past week? I'll admit I haven't had a chance to watch their follow-up one. I just saw a few seconds of it. The first one was amazing. And if you hadn't followed the news, what actually happened was, and I've got kind of a funny backup to this story, they had 1 second where they showed Jeremy Rockliff's face. And they were contacted by someone from Rockliff's department complained to the Tasmanian Electoral Commission because there's a little known law in Tasmania where during an official election campaign period, you can't use the face, name or likeness of a candidate without their express consent. So because Juice Media put that 1 second shot of Rockliff in there, they got a takedown notice from the TEC. So they had to take the whole ad down. They ended up editing it, taking Rockliff out and adding a beautiful FU sequence at the start of it where they laid out the fact that they'd basically had their freedom of speech trampled on and potential violations of the Constitution, and then put the entire ad back up. So whoever complained kind of poked the bear and ended up, it sort of blew up in their face, so to speak. And yes, Anyo, you are dead right. Juice Media rock, massive heroes of mine. I've been following them since the Rap News days. Those guys are legends. And Michael, big fan of them as well. Here's one from Denise. Has anyone else noticed, as I have, that every time the major party leaders are interviewed, they're asked to guarantee that they won't govern with others? A wedge question. Why ask it? Interesting, Denise. I mean, I think that one's mostly used against the Greens because there's political strategists are aware of how potent the dislike of the Greens are in certain sections that they're probably trying to win. So if they can somehow tag their opponents with, oh, you're going to work with the Greens, then that's going to put a big negative taint on that particular party. So that'd be my best guess at that one. The one that kind of drives me nuts, which I'd love to get some other people's opinion on. Oh no, the Instagram lag's back. Oh, what are we going to do, folks? Maybe it's my network. Ooh, internal network. Yeah, okay. I've got some ideas there. Look, I'm sorry, Instagram. If you want to come over to YouTube, you'll have a much better experience. But yeah, we'll work on that. As I was saying, the one that always infuriates me a bit is, and I'm going to slag off my hero, Cathy McGowan here a tiny bit. Independents right out of the gate saying, I will guarantee confidence and supply no matter what. When that kind of seems like their biggest piece of leverage if they wanted to get outcomes as an independent. My best guess is, and I'm sure like Cathy's an extremely reasonable person, I'm sure she would have thought to herself back in 2014 when she surprised everyone and took the seat of Indi off Sophie Mirabella, that there would already have been a perception out in the community that independents caused chaos or hung parliaments or something like that. And that if you were wading in there saying, oh, I'm going to be a loose cannon and won't guarantee confidence and supply, that you would scare too many people away. So that's my best guess at it. But I feel like there might be a time coming where independent candidates who have their heads screwed on properly are willing to hold back that guarantee. Like, they're not going to destabilize the government on purpose, but maybe they hold that guarantee back a little bit so that if they really need to get something done for their community, they have that in their back pocket. Anybody want to weigh in on that? Am I just talking absolute shit here? But that's been something that's been bugging me for a long time. What else are we going to talk about? I think... Yeah, Denise, tell me if that answered your question about why they ask about governing with others. I feel like it's mostly the Greens thing, but otherwise, I think I've run out of things useful to tell people other than tune in tomorrow night. It's going to be a great time. And anyone else got questions on Instagram? No, we're all good. I think we'll call it. One more question here from Denise, who says, with the major party vote falling across the board, that's surely becoming a moot question and is only a wedge. I agree completely. It's definitely a wedge. No doubt about that. And I think we really want to know that in the future, people will be willing to work together. I mean, if we're going to have these European-style coalition governments where we've got Greens and minor parties and independents potentially coming together to form government, being able to collaborate with other people in politics is going to be crucial. So it's probably going to require the mainstream media to kind of get their heads out of their asses when it comes to the changing state of politics. Will that be an easy thing to do? No, I don't think it will be. They mostly seem to enjoy politics as sport, kind of like the guys on Insiders do, where they're more interested in the horse race between these two teams, and their brains don't seem to compute that there might be other vectors of competition out there besides red versus blue. But maybe we'll get there one day. Who knows? Adam's come over to YouTube because of his frustrations with the Instagram lag. You came just in time for the stream to end, Adam, so thanks for the effort, but you might have to try this again tomorrow night. Denise says, lol, that won't happen. I'm assuming you're talking about the media getting their heads out of their asses. Denise has a rich history in Australian media, so she would be the one to know that. Okay. Well, look, I'm going to give Adam a chance to ask one more question after he's gone to all the effort of moving platforms from Instagram all the way over to YouTube. And let's just see if anybody on Instagram had anything else to say. But otherwise, it's been fun. Denise just confirmed that was indeed what she was referring to. And Anyo will be talking with Richard Dennis Tuesday night about lazy media reinforcing old dichotomies. Well said. Yes, I'm so glad you mentioned that. It's going to be a good one. So Nicolette Buller from Paul Fletcher's electorate of Bradfield. She came really close to taking it at the last election, and I believe she's running again. She's going to be interviewing Richard Dennis. I'll be on the Zoom call helping out behind the scenes and sorting out some of the tech side of things. And I think Anyo's going to be comparing or introing and outroing the whole night, which he does extremely well. So that's one to look out for. Richard Dennis is one of my heroes, the author of the great book Econobabble. If you haven't read it, go do it. It's short, it's punchy, and it will straighten out a lot of misconceptions that everybody has about economics. So highly recommend that. And the Australia Institute, always worth a follow. He's the executive director, I think, of the Australia Institute, chief economist and something. That crowd just always crank out the goods. I would say they played a significant role in forcing the changes to the stage 3 tax cuts. They waged a really efficient campaign to point out how ridiculous that whole program was, and eventually it came good, and I really think they should take a fair bit of the credit for that. All right. Jesse says, this has been brilliant. You've got a great piece of infrastructure for doing this, and it was a great time. Thank you. That's really kind. What you're doing there is justifying my frivolous gadget purchases over the last 20 years that I always find a way to justify. But if someone else justifies it, I feel like I'm not completely full of shit. So, Jesse, thank you for saying that. Denise Bradfield, largest swing against a sitting Liberal member at the last federal election. There you have it. The next best one would probably be Susie Holt in Toowoomba, who I've been helping out a bit. She came really close to knocking Garth Hamilton off, and it'll be interesting to see, will Susie run again? Will Susie run again? Chris says, thanks, Dan, love your work. No, love your work, Chris. Thank you for chiming in on the comments. You were the first one. You set the tone. You set the trend for the YouTube comments, and I thank you for that. Michael, I'll see you tomorrow night, mate. I can't wait. Thank you for all the hard work you've done arranging things for us down there. I think it's going to be a really good time. All right, everyone. I'm going to go tuck the kids into bed and say goodnight. And I really appreciate everyone chiming in. If you enjoy this kind of loosey-goosey, live streamy sort of action, let me know in the comments. Let me know on social media, and we can do more of it, because as you can see, I've got all this crazy nerdy gear, and I can also put it in a van and take it to other places and do live streams from swing electorates or from university lecture theatres or from anywhere that people want to get together and talk about big ideas. I'd be keen to do it. What have we got here? Jesse saying, happy to be an enabler for frivolous gadget purchases. Jesse, you are welcome here anytime. Thanks, Denise. Love your work. See you tomorrow night. Thanks, everyone. I forgot to come up with an ending. Normally I'd have like some punchy animation sort of thing. Oh, look, I'll play the footage of Quendo doing their thing again, electrocuting politicians, and then I'll end the stream. Thanks, everyone. See ya.
Wow. Whatever money you need, we're gonna fix it. That's right.
Do you think you can stand up in Parliament and do question time?
And endometriosis affects Queenslanders the most in comparison to any other state and territory in Australia. We need to work out what's going on in Queensland, and we actually need services to help these people. The economic cost of endometriosis is $9 billion a year.